Is Tom Hartman psychic or what? His book on voting is eerily prescient and right on time as usual. A Grateful Nation thanks you, Tom. Stephanie Miller, comedian, talk show host.
Oh.
Tom Hartman lover. I join a nation of Tom Hartman lovers on Valentine's Day. Hello, Tom Hartman. I talk nice about you behind your back all the time.
Back at you, Stephanie. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day to you. You make me, I don't know, you calm me, you center me, you make me a little bit giddy, I have to tell you.
Well, thank you.
All right, I tell you why, and I tell you why the story I keep telling is because as you know, I'm a little high-strung, little poodle on linoleum, little nervous about what's happening in America, and you having written 7,633 books as of this moment, which will change by the end of the show, but you're a student of history, and you keep sort of going, America's survived worse, we'll get through this, right? You seem to have some sort of zenness about all this.
Well, that Venice is showing some cracks right now, but I still am hopeful. I'm still optimistic, and I'm seeing a lot of signs that America is bouncing back, or is about to. I think it's going to happen in November in a very, very big way. But the problem is the problem that I identify in this book, which is that the Republicans, between an experience they had in 2000 and an action that they took, a legislative action in 2002, have learned how to and succeeded in basically rigging our election.
Yeah.
The exit polls, which are the gold standard around the world. As you know, we took down the government of Ukraine. Well, actually, the Ukrainians did in 2004 because Yanukovych, I forget which Ukrainian guy is the good guy and the bad guy.
Right.
Anyhow,
right.
The Democratic guy, according to the exit polls, won. But according to the official results, the Russian guy won.
Right.
And that got people out in the streets, and that was about a 5-point spread. Well, in Pennsylvania and Florida, the exit polls showed that Hillary Clinton beat Donald Trump by more than 5 points, and by more than 3 points in Wisconsin and in North Carolina. And hardly a peep, right?
I know, Tom, I read this and I thought, first of all, I'm so enjoying reliving 2016, this primary season, but that made me, you said in the book, just so people hear what Tom just said, in the book, I show how exit polls showed that Hillary actually won Florida, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina, but the GOP in 22 states had forced hundreds of thousands of voters into provisional ballots, which are not counted. Folks thought they had voted, and I know you and I are going to talk to Greg Palast about this tomorrow, but, Tom, they have become an extraordinary party of cheating, of finding out new and different ways to cheat Americans out of their vote, haven't they?
Well, yeah, and this is what happened. In 1978, the party was in the wilderness, after the Nixon scandals, and then, in 1976, Jerry Ford was beaten by a peanut farmer from Georgia that nobody had ever heard of. And so, they thought, there were literally books being written about the end of the Republican Party, as I'm sure you well remember. And what came out of that was, there was a Supreme Court decision in 76 called Buckley versus Vallejo that said that if a billionaire wants to own a politician, or even a dozen politicians, so fully fund them that they just basically are that person's personal servant, no problem. That's legal. That's free speech. And then 2 years later, in the First National Bank decision in 78, the Supreme Court extended that logic to corporations. Now, the Democratic Party was still getting most of their money from unions. But the Republican Party was screwed. They were out, with nothing. And so they said, okay, the doors are open. And they just invited all these big corporations and billionaires in, and they've become the party of billionaires and big corporations ever since. And if that's your identity, it's hard to win elections if people know that. So you got to figure out a way to rig the elections, which is what's going on.
Well, Tom, I like that you're always, obviously these books are so thorough, but I've been afraid sometimes to talk about this because I thought this is part of what they want, us to despair, to depress our turnout, for us to think it's already rigged, our vote's not going to count. So you also talk in the book about what we do to fight back. And I think, first of all, right, Blue Nami, as we call it here on the show, right, we need to have not just a blue wave, a blue tsunami. First of all, we got to get these levers of power back to change all these unfair. Mitch McConnell voted down, this week, 3 election security bills. They are clearly asking for foreign interference, for one, in terms of interference, right?
Well, he wouldn't even allow a vote. He's just sitting on this stuff. And I don't recall if you were with us or not back in 2005. A bunch of Air America hosts went to Washington, D.C., and we met with a group of Democratic senators. And this was after the 2004 exit polls showed showed that John Kerry
Yeah.
soundly beat George W.
Yeah,
Bush.
we had John Conyers on quite a bit then, who wrote you. I don't know if you ever. I'm sure you did because you've read every book and written every book, which is weird. But he's like John Travolta in that movie Phenomenon, except he doesn't have a brain tumor and he doesn't die. It's just it goes on and on. My point is, he wrote the book "What Went Wrong in Ohio," and go ahead. Yeah, you're right.
Exactly. So at that meeting, one of those senators, because we thought maybe it was rigged voting machines back then. I mean, we didn't know that the Republican Party had this strategy of throwing people off the voting rolls, and then when they show up to vote, giving them provisional ballots, which they think are counted but are never counted in red states. But in any case, at that meeting, one of the senators said to us, speaking for all the rest of them, we don't really want to talk about this out loud because it'll discourage people from voting if they think their vote won't be counted. Well, now we know what the strategy is. Now we know what the scam is. And what I'm trying to do with this book is, particularly in red states where this goes on, the red shift that I described earlier doesn't happen in blue states, only in states with Republican secretaries of state. If you live in a red state and you are given a provisional ballot, get out a bullhorn, raise holy hell, because that ballot will not be counted, and you have been screwed. And we need everybody to know that, because the way that they're getting away with this, and have since 2004, unlike 2000 when, Jeb Bush used the Texas felon list, and that led to, tens of thousands of African Americans in the streets in Florida, and multiple lawsuits. Now what they do is say, oh, here's a provisional ballot, and people don't know that they got screwed. And so, we need to wake people the hell up. That's what's going on.
Well, yeah. I mean, by the way, so as you talk about, as we know, they particularly target people of color, women, the poor. But you make an important point. You say in today's America, only a slim majority of people register to vote, and a large percentages of registered voters don't bother to show up. Donald Trump was elected with just 26% of eligible voters. So that's our other mission, Tom, is not just check and recheck and check your registration in case you've gotten thrown off the rolls. Make sure everyone you know is registered, but make sure you get everyone you know to the polls, because you're right. It's like that's what's extraordinary is people watch these rallies and feel, overwhelmed. And you're right, Tom. It is not a majority. The majority of America, first of all, how many people didn't vote? What, 100 million? I mean, as you say. So you say in the hidden history of the war on voting, got to get the book. You unveil the strategies and tactics that conservative elites have used from the foundation of the Electoral College to the latest voter ID laws to protect their interests by preventing the wrong people, quote unquote, from voting, making it more convenient for the wealthy and the white. And they've gotten so sort of blatant about it, right? I mean, who is this dead guy whose daughter basically, outed all his papers saying, yes, this is, to keep Republicans in power, period,
yes,
right?
This is our strategy. I don't know if you saw the story in the New York Times this morning, but the dating apps are now starting to freak out because they're discovering that people are more concerned about a potential mate's politics than their appearance. If you put progressive or conservative on your dating app, that has a higher priority. I mean, but the other thing that they're discovering is that the people who are identifying as conservatives on these dating apps are a very small minority. And they're going off onto their own apps now.
Yeah. We
are the majority. People who care about American values are the majority. People who care about pluralism. People who care about democracy. People who care about about their brothers and sisters, their neighbors, our fellow citizens. We are the majority. And these hate-filled bigots and maggot hat wearers are very much the minority. And the one thing that we have to do as a majority is show the hell up.
Yep. And by the way, and vote blue no matter who. You and I did a unity thing after 2016. Remember, we came on each other's shows. This year, we're going to have to. Yep. You're going to have to come live here with me, and then I'll go live with you for a week.
Whatever it takes. We've got to get this government.
We're on the air together every day. Yeah. But here's what I want to get to. Tom lays out a wide variety of simple, common sense solutions that would both extend the right to vote to all Americans and create a system to ensure elections result in outcomes that more clearly align with the preferences of the American people. We, the people, can fight back and reclaim our right to rule. So, Tom, give us some of that. You know what I mean. Give us the rules of the road here.
Yeah, so some really simple stuff that they do in other countries. Vote by mail. I live here in Oregon. I get the ballot 3 weeks in advance. Louise and I sit at the kitchen table and look it over. If there's somebody we're not sure of, we Google them. A big, thick voter book comes with it that explains everything and every ballot measure.
Yeah.
You have the time to do it. You mail it. You drop it in the mail. It's a paper ballot. It's just it's run through a scan machine, but it's
Okay.
it's not no scams here. Just very straightforward. Stop voter suppression. North Dakota doesn't even have voter. You don't even have to register to vote, which is the case in many other countries as well. At least let's undo these Republican voter suppression laws, which are just devastating to democracy. But we need to encourage, create if for those states that still want to have people going to the physical polls. And for a while in Oregon, when we first did this, we still had physical polls, and then some people said, "Hey, nobody showed up," right?
Yeah.
But for those states that want to have that, make it a holiday, make it a national holiday for that matter. And of course, we need to get money out of politics.
Yeah.
And a lot of those things are addressed in legislation that has already passed the House of Representatives, H.R. 1, and there's two other bills that are brother and sister bills kind of thing.
Yeah.
And of course, Mitch McConnell is keeping them in the bottom drawer of his desk. So we've got to take back the Senate too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
very active in red states.
absolutely. And by the way, we've had, I'm sure you've had the same people on your show explaining what is happening at justice and in America is no less than a crisis, a five-alarm fire. Democracy literally is on the ballot this November.
Yes.
And you said if you want to understand tonight's DOJ crisis, you must understand Barr's background and history. Then it all becomes clear, and it's going to get worse. And you said Lev Parnas is afraid of Bill Barr, and he should be. You join me, I'm sure, in calling total BS on this cover your ass interview.
This is, as Rachel Maddow pointed out last night, this is the first time in 40 years that the Justice Department has any prosecutor, any of the 100 prosecutors anywhere has recommended or hasn't recommended the basic sentencing guidelines, which is what they did recommend. And then Bill Barr comes along and says, "Oh no, I made a decision about this." The Attorney General doesn't do that.
Yeah.
And never has, literally never has. I mean, remember when Republicans went hysterical because Bill Clinton met the Attorney General on her airplane?
Yeah, accidentally for a few minutes, right? Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God, the president's talking to the Attorney General? We can't have that. It's a national disgrace.
Well, and you go back to Clinton's impeachment, and this is what I love. One of your tweets, Tom, you said if Democrats want to take the White House back from Trump, they can't do it by being nice or promising to work with Republicans across the aisle. These are different times, Tom. These are dire times. These are crisis times, and I agree with you more. We are just we are in the fight of our lives this time, right?
Yeah, it's time to take names and kick ass, Steph. We really, really have to. And to Bill Barr, but most people don't realize that back in 1992, he was the guy. He was the Attorney General for George Herbert Walker Bush, and he was the guy who deep-sixed the Iran-Contra investigation and what was called Iraqgate, which was when the Reagan administration illegally sold weapons of mass destruction to Saddam Hussein, which is why Dick Cheney thought there was weapons of mass destruction there, because he'd sold them to him.
Yeah.
And it was a huge scandal, and Bill Barr covered that up, too.
Yeah.
William Safire used to refer to him as cover-up General Barr, not Attorney General Barr.
Yeah.
So, no surprise here. He lied through his teeth yesterday. He'll continue to. That's what these guys do.
The book is The Hidden History of the War on Voting, Who Stole Your Vote, How to Get It Back.